My entire family caught the flu. All of us. Unbelievable. This is day 3 for me. I feel so much better than I did. It was just like the worst. I wasn't able to get the work done that I had planned to get done, but I'm happy that I was just able to get up and make tea for everybody and kind of keep up with the dishes and stuff like that, but moving around. Because my son got sick first, and he's just like, I just want to lay down, my body hurts. And I'm like, you got to get up, you got to move around, stand on that balcony, get some sun, get some air, even if it's just for a few minutes. And he really didn't want to do it, was giving me a hard time. But then 24 hours later, I was in the same position, so I had to keep getting up and just like, show the kids that you can't just lay around when you're sick. You really do need to move around and get fresh air. And I'm just grateful. I'm grateful we made it through that, because when you sick and you like, I feel like I'm dying. Yeah. So my teens are getting older now and starting to want to venture out into the world on their own and hang out with friends. And it's been a major transition for me, because I'm used to my kids only hanging out with each other. But our life circumstance has changed, and I don't want them to be like me. I don't plan on being this way forever, never wanting to leave the house or socialize. I'm actually planning not to be like that. I'm working on myself, and I just get very triggered, in the outside world. And I'm reached a point where I don't want to keep saying I have anxiety and I'm bipolar. Like, I already know that. There's a lot of power in our words, so I don't want to keep saying that. I just want to find solutions and to become better. But I don't want them to be like how I am right now, and I do want them to socialize. But it's like a very challenging transition for me, because I want to protect my children, and people are weird. Like, you don't know what people have going on. You don't know what they have going on spiritually or physically or any of that type of stuff, mentally. That's why it was great that they had so many siblings. I mean, there's 6 of them, so they always get, well, there's only 3 here, but there's 6 of them. Their 2 oldest brothers are grown and gone, and their youngest brother is in Job Corps. So they're used to being each other's friends, but since now the family is split up and we're down to 3, they, it's not enough. And they're not outgrowing each other, but they're needing to expand and spread their wings. And, as a mom, I am struggling with not struggling with it. I'm learning how to adapt to letting them fly on their own. They may fall, they may soar. I'll be there to help patch up their wings if they fall, but I can't keep grabbing at their little talons, preventing them from the takeoff, It's just scary. And another thing that's making it challenging is that I had DSS involved in my life before, and I've had custody of my children taken, and they're beyond the point. Well, not my daughter. My daughter is still a minor, but even though we're not anywhere in that space, it still is it's a trigger for me. Like, I used to make a joke that's absolutely not funny, but I'm one of those people that just, in the midst of tragedy, I'm going to make a joke. I always used to say that my house had to stay DSS ready. Like, I would never let anybody leave out a lighter or anything. Like, there's no reason why you can't have a lighter sitting out on the counter, but just because of what I've been through, I would just always freak out about anything, like even something as small as a lighter being left out. But I just always felt like everything had to be perfect. Because of the trauma I had connected to my kids being taken, which was way more about my drug use than my house not being kept properly. So I have a lot of my own issues connected to allowing them to have freedom, because when they were younger, there was a situation where one of the younger boys wanted to go outside with one of the older boys, and I didn't want him to go because I just didn't want him to go. But he's just like, please, you never let me go anywhere. I always got to stay in the house. And I was like, fine, go. And then something happened. They were playing in the alley. And actually, DSS was right down the street from our house, like down the alley. And, like, you would literally could drive from there to our house through an alley. And apparently like a DSS worker almost hit them because she didn't see them when she was coming from the alley and they were coming around the corner. And that opened up a DSS case that, the end result was me losing custody. It wasn't because of that situation, but I was on drugs at the time that the investigation opened. So once I became under investigation, and it just went all left. So not so thrilled about, letting them venture out into the world, but it's life. It's a part of life, and I will deal with it. I'm certainly not going to let them become limited because of whatever issues I have. They may be growing up as teenagers, but I'm still growing up as an adult. I never act like I have all the answers. I don't. And we all have this unhealed childhood trauma. That inner child still, in my eyes, makes me a child. I'm still very much growing in the spirit. I still very much depend on God for everything. Absolutely everything. I'm basically in a constant state of prayer. And always making sure that I'm combating fear, praying away all of the things that will take me back to a place that I never want to return to. So I already know everything's going to work out, but this is the process, and we document in the process. So moving forward, as far as this, we're still working on the communicating properly when triggered. That's always challenging. Proper communication will get you to where you want to go as far as having a successful life. You have to have proper communication skills. So I'm definitely working on specifically communicating while triggered, if there's a situation with my teenagers. But as far as them venturing out in the social situation, I'm just going to keep praying over them. I'm not being overbearing with my opinions and beliefs about what they're doing or what their friends are doing. Like, they already understand my view on life, and I believe we pretty much all have the same beliefs, but they're also teenagers, and they're also still finding themselves and having new experiences, and, I don't want to pass judgment on their friends or anything like that, so I just want to make sure that they always feel safe talking to me about what they're doing. And it's like, they know how I was when I was a teenager, and I make sure to always talk to them about how I was as a teenager, so they don't feel like the things that they're going through are exclusive to them. Like, they need to understand I made the same mistakes, and I don't want them to beat themselves up too much or feel like I wouldn't understand, because the woman that I was raised by, well, first of all, she was an older woman as a mother to me than I am to my kids. She was already like, at my age, at the age that, so I'm talking about 16 and 17-year-olds. So by the time I was 16 and 17, my adopted mom was like 54. So she came from a whole different generation. Apparently a generation that didn't, admit when they had made mistakes or tell the truth about their past or express emotions about anything. So she acted like she never had a teenage life and never made mistakes and never expressed anything that she did. So there was a complete disconnect. And I made sure that I did not have that with my kids. I pretty much have told them 90% of what I did when I was a teenager. I do know how to hold my own secrets. But just basically being supportive and making sure that my boundaries are, reinforced. Making sure that my boundaries are reinforced, and just, having an open door policy, which I have right now, and they're utilizing just fine. Maybe telling me a little too much sometimes. It's not easy watching your kids grow up, and it's not because, I don't want them to leave. Please, I couldn't pay them to leave. It's just because I don't want them to be vulnerable in the world. But they can't grow if I always coddle them or I'm around too much. They won't be their true selves, because the version that I get when they're around me is not the version they show to their friends or the world or each other, because they are totally different creatures when they're not around me. I learned that the hard way. But yes, I'm excited for this new chapter of them, evolving into these new creatures. They're different every day. They're like little Pokemon. They get all emotional and they pop, change into something else. It's actually really cool. This is the cool part of creation, of making these interesting little pieces of you that fight so hard against everything you try to teach them, but always come around and end up teaching you something. I love you. I'll catch you in the next episode.